Premiere Pro has always had a great reputation for supporting multiple formats, but up until CS5, version CS5, this wasn't particularly great as an editing experience. And part of the problem was that you could mix and match formats, which was great, that was brilliant, but as soon as you tried to play anything that did not match your sequence settings, you were having to render it, which was a little bit laborious and kind of killed the creative flow. Come along CS5, suddenly you've got this wonderful playback performance, partly because the playback engine was rewritten by Adobe, and partly because Adobe and NVIDIA worked together to produce this wonderful CUDA feature that allows the graphics card to do some of the playback work. So I would tell everybody it's a great idea to get a CUDA-enabled graphics card, do your research, make sure you've got one of the ones listed on the Adobe website, or indeed with this new release of Premiere Pro CS6, make sure you've got a MacBook Pro that has the right kind of OpenCL supporting graphics chip. Now that we have this wonderful real-time performance, we can start to forget about the issues to do with mixing and matching formats. And the import process for Premiere Pro is essentially the same, regardless of what format your original media is. The exception is if you're using fragmented file types, like the MXF media you'll get from an XT-Cam camera or a P2 camera from Panasonic. These kinds of cameras will break up the media into different folders, and there's a different process to import those using this media browser. But if we're talking about importing regular files, let's say, for example, DSLR QuickTime movies, or even RED R3D files from the lovely RED cameras, or in fact anything that contains all of the media you need in a single file, this is pretty much how you do it. There's many ways of approaching the same process, but you can go to File and choose Import, or inside one of your bins, here I am inside the project panel, you can right-click and choose Import, or you can double-click, my preferred way, on the background of a bin, or in this case, the project panel itself. Let's double-click, and this is going to give us access to our content. Now, what I'm interested in here is my video assets. And first of all, I'm just going to go into this folder and I'm going to select some media. All I need to do is select the items that I want and click Open. So there we go. Now I've got some shots in my project panel. Lovely. And it's perhaps not super clear to see, but here is a clip. There it is. That's a clip, and I can double-click on it and play it back and view it in my source monitor. But I've also got some subclips that were created automatically before, and I can open these up. And these are clips that are just part of an original clip. You can see this is also called Honey Pour, and they're really just useful for finding your way around your media. Let's say you've got a 10-minute clip and you need 3 bits of 30 seconds from it. You might as well just have the 30 seconds as subclips. It's pretty straightforward to make one. You just right-click once you've got marks to select the part of the clip you want. There we go. Right-click and choose Make Subclip, and it adds it to the bin. I'll just click OK, and there we go. I've got another one there. So importing whole clips is pretty easy. I'm going to make a new bin by clicking on this New Bin button at the bottom of the panel. I'll call this First Media, just to make it easy to find. I'm going to select the first item, hold down the Shift key, click on the last item on the list, and drag all these into that bin. And just close it up with a little triangle there. And another way of doing the same thing, if I go back in, I'm double-clicking and go up a level, is to select a whole folder. So let's say, for example, I want all of this double identity media. You'll notice that if you select a folder, there's an Import Folder button that becomes available inside the Import dialog box. And by the by, this Import dialog box uses your operating system. So here in Windows, for example, I can do a quick search. It's a very similar experience on Mac OS. So I'm going to click Import Folder, and I've already got a folder now. This is a bin inside my project. There we go, and there's the clips already inside it. I'm probably going to use the word bin and folder interchangeably in these lessons because the bin is a term taken from film editing where you'd hang up your strips of celluloid and everything would hang down higgledy-piggledy in the bin and available for you during the cut. And of course, when editing systems like Premiere Pro were first created, the only editors around were film editors, and so the designers went to them and said, what would you call this place that you put your clips? The fact that they're called clips is itself a film term, and a lot of the terminology comes from the film editing days. Words like trim and cut, for example, are all just examples of the same thing. Even marking in and out marks, those are all the same things you'd use for film editing. And what about our 3D files then? If I double click here, I've got the option to import a red file, just the same. There's an R3D. I'm going to click open. That's straight off of Red Camera, native. And in fact, if I want to, I can just drag and drop things directly from my operating system. So here, for example, I've got some mountain race content. I can just select a bunch of these. Let's have those and drag and drop them straight into Premiere Pro. In this case, from Windows Explorer. On a Mac, that would be from the Finder. Again, I'm probably got to put those into a bin, so let's create a new bin, call this race, and then put these items in there as well. It's a good idea to try to be organized, if you possibly can, when you start out. Now, there are some special media types. If I import an XML file from FCP or an AAF from Media Composer, Premiere Pro is going to spot that and take me through an import process to bring in that media. If I double click here and import, let's have a look now, I've got a multi-layer Photoshop document here, then I get the option of merging all the layers into a single flattened footage item, merging selected layers into a single footage item, having individual layers, which will be separate items in my bin, or even having a sequence. I'm going to choose sequence here. And down at the bottom, I can either choose to have each layer maintain the size of the original document, or for each layer to use its own size. You can see just from the thumbnails here, my layers are actually different sizes. I'm going to go for document size and click OK. And Premiere Pro is going to make a bin that has the name of the Photoshop document, and inside of there I've got the layers as separate items and a sequence has already been created. I'll just double click and there it is, and you can see in my sequence I've actually got 3 parts, and each part is a separate layer. I can turn these off and you can see I've got 3 different bits that I can work with independently. You can only really do this with Premiere Pro because Adobe make Photoshop as well. In fact, there's a shortcut to making bins. If I grab this red file, for example, and drag it onto the new bin button, there we go. Straight away a new bin is created and the red file is inside it. And I'll call this red. That'll do. Close that down. So you can see it doesn't really matter what format I'm working with. I'm really, in fact, just making links to my original files. I'm not importing anything. It's very, very fast because Premiere Pro just needs to make a shortcut to the original media files on the hard drive. It's important to understand the distinction. I am not importing anything, so if I remove my original media, it's gone. I don't have a link anymore for my clips. And what's also worth noting is that no conversion takes place when you import things to Premiere Pro. Now, if I look, for example, at maybe one of these double identity clips, I'm going to select this, and if I right-click on it and get the properties, I'm getting all kinds of information about it. But you'll notice that this clip doesn't say, I point to a file, it says, I am a file. Once you get the media in, it just pretends to be the thing it points to. But here's the file path. On the G drive, assets, video assets. It's a QuickTime movie, and here's the size and the frame rate and so on. Now what's happening is Premiere Pro is making a link to the original media, and it doesn't need to make any changes to it because the conforming process happens at the point of playback inside your sequence, not at the point of import. This is a little bit different to some other editing applications, so if you've got any experience of using another system, you need to take a little step back and just see how this would work in a system like Premiere Pro. I can put anything I like into a sequence, and Premiere Pro is just going to make it work. It's just going to play. And the range of formats supported is enormous. If I just show you, if I double click here, under here, this menu, I've got all supported media. And these are all of the different file types that are supported by Premiere Pro. And you'll notice that some of these are wrapper formats. For example, if I look at the QuickTime movie, QuickTime movies have lots and lots of different codecs inside of them. And you'll notice quite a few of these formats have equivalent options. AVI files are another one. So it's pretty easy to import things, drag and drop them, double click, go to the file menu, whichever method you like. It's going to be very quick, and the main thing is to get organized as quickly as you can.